everybody, welcome back to another episode of In Tune, that show where we sit down and talk about music.
Yes. I like music.
As we mentioned last episode, we are going to be talking about one of our favorite bands, Rancid, and their third studio album, And Out Come the Wolves. It's originally released on August 2nd, 1995. It features a total of 19 songs and a total runtime of a brisk 49 minutes and 39 seconds.
This is one of those bands opposite of Metallica. What was it? Metallica did 12 songs, hour and a half.
Yeah, probably longer than that.
And these guys, they play fast, they play hard. A lot of times you can't understand some of the words. Top three songs.
Are you shitting on Tim Armstrong?
No, actually, I got a story about Tim Armstrong after you name your three songs.
Right. So my favorite three from this are Journey to the End of the East Bay.
Okay.
Which, if anybody's familiar with that, this album, that's the song I just played. Maxwell Murder.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I have necessarily a number three, because it's kind of a tie between a whole bunch of them at that point. Like, I love Ruby Soho, Time Bomb. There's so many good songs on this album. It's hard to pick a third, but the first two are definitely, those are my go-tos when I pick up this album.
Okay, mine, Maxwell Murder, Time Bomb, Ruby Soho, and I'm going to have to throw a fourth in there, She's Automatic.
It's a good choice too.
Yeah.
This is another one of those albums that, like, top to bottom, there really isn't a bad song on it.
Yeah, not at all. In fact, when I was first introduced to Rancid, my buddy Chase, you may have heard him mentioned before, he was really big into them, and we used to go to this pool hall, bowling alley pool hall. It was called Freeway Lanes, and this was on the jukebox, and we'd set it up, and I mean, this was our night. This album, some other songs thrown in, and
yeah, I was surprised. I think so originally we were supposed to have a guest with us. It was going to be my buddy Sean, who really introduced me into punk rock and this album in particular. But I had heard one song by them before. And oddly enough, it was on one of those. So we had this restaurant we used to go to in high school,
mm-hmm.
Called Chick Char. It was a Chinese food restaurant, but they had, like, the best potato wedges ever.
Of course, because they're Chinese.
So we would go there for potato wedges and gravy because it was just incredible. But they had, like, the little tabletop jukeboxes.
Yeah.
So, like, at each booth had a little jukebox, and I want to say, I'm pretty sure it was Ruby Soho that was on that.
Yeah.
And I was tired of hearing, like, what was the Mambo Number 5 was big at the time.
Mambo Number 5.
Yeah, and, like, people would play that on repeat all the time, and you could hear the other tables. I'm like, God, no. So I was like, let's just find something different. I'm like, what's this Rancid? That sounds like, isn't that bad? So, and I put it on. I was like, yeah, this song's actually pretty good. And then, about a year or so later, Sean introduced me to the whole album, and I was blown away by it. Basically, what caught me on this album was the bass solo in Maxwell Murder.
Yeah.
I've seen one person in my life that has played that in front of me. And it was just as amazing as when I hear it on the album.
I, too, have seen one person in my life that's played it in front of me. He was the bassist. It was one of the Warped Tours. I saw them on, God, I guess it was my first Warped Tour, so 98?
Okay.
That might be too old for Warped Tour. It was around that time. And, yeah, I saw them. I was an old, seasoned veteran at that time. I was 14. Mom, piling into my mom's minivan with my buddy Chase and a couple other friends. Yeah, let's go see Warped Tour. We're going to see Bad Religion. We're going to see Rancid, blah, 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 blah. And Rancid was the band I was most excited for.
Of course.
And it was El Paso in the summertime, so it was 118 degrees, and you were outside, and it was worth it. Every second of it was worth it. And Maxwell Murder. I also remember Maxwell Murder from one of the Tony Hawks. I think it was the first or the second.
Really?
Yeah. And at first I was like, I know this song, because all I would hear when I was playing was, and dial 999 if you really want. And it's like, I know that song. I know, where's that song? And then when I started going to that pool hall, I was like, oh yeah, Tony Hawk.
I don't remember that song being in...
I think, I'm pretty sure.
No, it was in Dave Mirra BMX.
Well, obviously.
Wait, hang on. I'm trying to look this up because I know I played like the first 3 Tony Hawk games at least, like when they came out.
Yeah.
And I don't remember that. I don't remember that song being on there.
It might have been. Let me see. Police truck, blah blah blah. This is the boring part of the podcast.
Yeah, like No Cigar is the song that I really remember. And there was a Goldfinger song too.
Superman.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I mean it was probably in one of those types of games, but I don't think it was a Tony Hawk game anyway.
You might be right. I'd have to really delve into it and find out.
Yeah. Anyway, not really important.
No.
But yeah, I mean, this is one of those albums too that, like, once Sean really got me hooked on it, we would just sit in his basement, where he was living at the time, because he had moved out from his mom's and stuff. He was living with a family friend anyway, and we basically had the entire basement of the house to ourselves. And like we would just throw on punk records and just hang out. We wouldn't even really do anything. We'd just sit there and listen to music all day. And it sounds like really boring, but it was like some of the best times of my life in that basement.
Yeah.
Literally doing nothing. But I mean, we would throw on, like, I think And Out Come the Wolves was kind of our go-to. Like that was guaranteed. We were going to put that on, and that was going to be, 2 or 3 listen like all the way through. So the first few hours I was there. Then we'd switch up to maybe some Goldfinger, a little Less Than Jake, stuff like that. But inevitably we would always go back to the Rancid albums. And I don't know, just through my teen years, I guess this was kind of like the album that I listened to the most.
Yeah, and my story to go with
right,
Tim Armstrong. So my buddies had a band 2004-ish. Yeah,
okay.
It had to be 2004, 2005, because I was just out of high school. You were right, it was Dave Mirra Freestyle BMX. But
nice.
I was just out of high school, second year of college maybe, and they got to play on the Warped Tour.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, they played
wait. I think we've talked about this before. I don't know if we talked about it on recording, but I think we've talked about your buddy's band before.
Yeah. And it was a lot of fun. I went and I was their roadie. I sold their merch, because that's what you do.
That's what you do, yeah. Anything to get yourself in for free. Right?
Yeah, and so we were backstage after Warped Tour, and one of them, he had passed out on the... he was just so tired he passed out. His feet were up on the U-Haul, laying down on the floor. Guys from Dropkick Murphys were throwing bottle caps at him, seeing if they could hit him. And this guy comes up and just starts talking to us. He has this weird mesh of accents. And I turn around and lo and behold, it's Tim Armstrong. And like we're talking, we're all psyched out. He's like, yeah, what's up guys? Trying to figure out what we are, new up and coming band. They're like giving them the whole life story. He's like, yeah, we're from El Paso. We drove 12 hours to get to Houston to play this show. And he's like, oh, you drove with this thing? You gotta be careful with these things. And he hits the side of the U-Haul. And like by the time I figured out what was going on, I was like, holy shit, this is Tim Armstrong. Like,
yeah.
I mean, he was playing with transplants at the time, but I was freaking out. And so then he walks away, and that was my interaction with Tim Armstrong.
That was it. He just walks up, like, "Hey guys, what's happening?
Yeah.
Be careful with the U-Haul," and then just walks off.
Yeah. And I mean, that was the whole mentality back there. Was everyone just hanging out, and there was a band called the F-Ups, the Fuck-Ups. I don't know where we can go.
May have been censored. Maybe
Yeah.
not been.
But they had a converted U-Haul, and they put in windows on the side, so it was just like a van.
Oh, okay.
And one of them was peeing out of the side of the window. And I was like, this is heaven. This is as close to heaven as I'm ever going to get. I met Agent M from Tsunami Bomb, and just like really, I had a blast. And
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
There's definitely that thing. Like, I found Sean and we started a band as well, and I found as soon as we did that, like, any shows that we went to or anything, all the conversation was about music. It's like, oh, you guys, oh, you're in a band? Oh, cool. Tell me about your band. Like, everybody was just really supportive of each other.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether you've known each other for years or you've just met, or it's somebody that, we knew a certain band that they had been touring around our area for like years.
Yeah.
And, they didn't think themselves any better than anybody else. And so I get, like, as cool as that is that you met Tim Armstrong and stuff, and he just came up, it's kind of like almost expected in my head.
It is, but at the same time, I got to see the vast difference between the real punk music scene and like that pop punk where the famous people, because Fall Out Boy played one of the main stages that year, as did the Transplants, and the difference is Fall Out Boy, poppy, real popular, real fast. Transplants were made up of people that had paid their dues. So,
were the Transplants like a, pardon the term, supergroup?
Kind of. I don't know where the rapper dude came from, but it was Tim Armstrong, Travis Barker, and the bald-headed rapper dude. And I can't ever remember his name.
There's only 3? I thought there was somebody else in there. Crap. Who am I thinking of? I'm gonna have to look it up here.
Yep.
Skinhead Rob?
Skinhead Rob, that's the rapper dude.
That's great.
Yep. And
Kevin. He looks scary.
Kevin Bivona, who was in.
Where is he from?
He was in blah 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 blah. The Intruders. He was also in Rancid.
Oh.
Basically everything Tim Armstrong did, young Kevin did.
It's not who I was thinking. Oh, you know who I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of Me First and the Gimme Gimmes.
Oh yeah.
Because there was like a member from NoFX in there, and that was another sort of like super group, but they were awesome. But
yeah.
We'll save them for another.
They get their own episode.
they will get their own episode.
But it's like I ate lunch next to Travis Barker, and we just ate. And then at the same time, you had the guys from Fall Out Boy, and a couple of them came out and interacted with everybody, except the lead singer. That motherfucker sat on his bus and played Xbox.
Of course.
But all in all, like, it was just getting to meet some of these people were my heroes. I had idolized them for years at that point, and here I am hanging out with them, watching them.
That's what I loved about the punk rock scene. No matter where you went, it's like, it doesn't matter who you are, you're here for the same reason.
Yeah.
And everybody talks to everybody. It doesn't matter if you're more of a fan of NoFX or whatever. It didn't matter. It's like, oh, cool, you're here to see the show. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Who else do you like, sort of thing.
And, Rancid really is the band that, I mean, I grew up with it. My sister liked it. A lot of my friends liked it. But Rancid's really the band that got me into it. Like, before I was a punk rock fan, I was a Rancid fan. And I listen to them daily.
Yeah.
They're one of the few bands I can say I listen to daily.
It's weird how that album in particular just It just has such good replay value. You could
Yeah.
just, like I said, we would sit there and it would just we hit repeat on the CD player.
Mm-hmm.
And it'd just play and play and play and then go, all right, maybe we should listen to something else. And we'd listen to like 3-4 songs and go,
Yeah, let's go back. Yeah. and it has that nice kind of. Some songs you can just kind of chill out and relax and listen to, and other songs, they're fast and they pump you up, and it's just a good mix of music all the way through. I don't know, like when I think of Ruby Soho, I think of the song I Lost My Virginity to. Go figure, that was the one.
Nice.
Time Bomb.
Yeah,
Time
Rancid
Bomb,
started
yeah.
my thing. So we were talking on a previous episode about what we put on when we're stressed out or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's typically it's for me it's punk rock. And
Yeah.
So when my buddy Sean moved away, broke up the band and everything, and there's a cool little story in there I'll get into in a second. But he moved to Alberta to pursue a better career and stuff because he was in debt and all that stuff. And he had been out there maybe 6 months at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And I called him up one day and we're shooting the shit and he says, so what have you been listening to lately? And like Metallica and Ozzy, and he's like, what the fuck are you doing? Why aren't you listening to punk? And I'm like, I don't have any. And he's like, I'll fix that. And he recorded a bunch on a cassette tape. And it was just a mixtape.
Yeah.
And he made its own little album art. So he took the album cover from it, Out Come the Wolves, with the guy's like got his head in his lap and stuff. And he took out all the text and he put he called it Don't Cry, It's All Punk and No Bullshit.
Yeah.
And it was just, like I said, a full tape back and front, just a bunch of random different punk. And like there's no excuses now. I don't want to hear that you're listening to Metallica.
Yeah. and it's one of those things where that community, when you look at them, you think, oh man, those dirty punks, look at them. Mohawks, no shower, what's up with, but they're some of the most creative people you'll ever meet. Music may not be creative in a arrangement orchestral, like, oh, look at all the new and amazing stuff they're doing, but they accomplish so much more bare bones.
Yeah.
And you're in the scene and everybody knows the guy that does t-shirts, everybody knows the guy that does graphic design, and it's just one of those things where everyone had a mixtape and they all felt the need to name it something.
Mm-hmm.
And hell, I made a few CDs and I named them, and one of them, I kind of did my own kind of sampler CD compilation, and
right.
I released it, and I think I had like 9 or 10 volumes in 2.5 years. It was just like every few months, it's like, I'm gonna make another compilation. And I'd release it and I'd sell it at shows for like $2 each.
Yeah.
And it was cool. Even if the band that was on...
I was going to say, it's cool until the band finds out and goes, you're making money off our back, you motherfucker?
A lot of times it's just like, oh, awesome, I'm going to give this a listen. And sometimes it'd be like, hey, I didn't know this band. That's really good, you put them right after us. I was like, yeah, I planned it.
It was pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, and it was a real sense of community.
Yeah, like, so when we formed this band, so Sean and I, we decided, just one of those things, you're sitting around like, we should start a band. We should start a band.
Yeah.
Who's going to do what? I'm like, well, I'm a guitar player, so I'll play guitar. And he's like, well, I play guitar too. And I'm like, well, but we're starting a punk band. You can't have 2 guitar players in a punk band for some stupid reason.
Yeah.
And then we ended up just inviting a bunch of musicians and people that I guess Sean was more familiar with than I was. And so the only one that I knew was our bass player. His name was Tyson. He grew up with my sister. He's a friend of my sister. So I'm like, oh, okay, I know Bubba. That's cool. We'll bring him in. And then we brought in a guy named Brad, who eventually he ended up being the lead guitarist. but unfortunately he was more of a metal guy than he was a punk guy. So
it happens.
The problem was we were trying to convey a certain tone.
Yeah.
And he would always make it metal. And it's like, that's not what we're going for.
Yeah.
Anyway, the day that we called everybody over, I'm like, who do we have on drums? And he's like, we called up a guy named Todd. You ever heard of Todd St. Pierre? I'm like, no? It's like, I got some stories for you. And he starts telling me about this guy, and he's like, the one story that stuck with me, and it had me scared shitless to meet Todd, was there was a big house party somewhere, and Todd was there, and he's asking somebody for a beer, and they wouldn't pass him one, so he started, like, passing me beer. No, Todd, you've had enough. And I guess he stood up, and he just started beating his own head with an empty beer bottle until someone passed him a beer. And, like, to a point where it broke.
Yeah.
Cut himself a little bit. He threw it down, somebody gave him a beer, and he nailed that one down, and then just fucked up. And I'm like, this dude's badass. I'm kind of afraid to meet him.
Yeah.
And then he shows up, and he's just like this. He's a big dude, I guess, but he's just like, you could tell just looking at him, he's like the biggest teddy bear ever.
Yeah.
And he just walks in, he's like, hi, my name's Todd, nice to meet you. I'm like, cool, man. So, like, I don't know, let's jam some shit out. Let's see what we got. And, I mean, it just took off, and we were together right up until Sean left, and we won a Battle of the Bands where we wrote one of our own songs, and we did our own version of Goldfinger's cover of 99 Red Balloons.
Yep.
Which I'm in the process of trying to find that video.
Oh.
Now, I was talking to Sean. Somewhere in his possession is a VHS tape of that show that we played, and about 2 hours or more video of us just jamming in Todd's bedroom, which was his attic at the time.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get a hold of that. If I can get a hold of it and get it digital somehow, I'll probably cut up a few videos and put those up on the YouTube page as well. So I'm kind of hoping that he gets a hold of it, because at least the show itself, like, you can see, for the Battle of the Bands, we were trying to come up with, like, hey, we're a punk band, we got to be crazy, we got to dress like fools.
Yeah.
And the best I could come up with was I had these bright orange shorts, and I wore a bright yellow shirt, and I had socks and sandals, because I'm like, fuck it. People say no socks and sandals, but that's what I wore.
Yeah.
And to punk myself up, I printed out the words, please don't feed the animals, on paper. I cut that paper out and taped it to my guitar. So it was just, like, using, and my guitar's over there, I don't feel like getting it, but just using this. So it was like, please do not feed the animals. Just in paper, taped on here. And it was the funniest thing ever. I
think my parents still have my guitar, well, my electric, at their house. So I'll have to snag it, show you some of my my stickers that made their way onto that from I don't know why that was a thing.
I think the reason that I taped paper to the guitar was because technically at the time my dad hadn't officially given me that guitar. He was just like, here's a guitar, play it, and he never played it. But he hadn't officially said, like, it's yours. It was still his guitar. So I was like, I'm not putting stickers on it or anything. So that's the best I could come up with.
Yeah.
And, like, I think Sean's wearing a Star Trek shirt, which is like 3 sizes too small. It's just, it's all kinds of messed up. But it's a good watch. And
yeah, and
you can see 15 or 16-year-old me.
Yep.
So hopefully I can get a hold of that, and I'll put that up. There's also a picture of, so the day before Sean moved away, as a going away for the band, he had spent, so he dated my sister for a long time, and they broke up, I think, probably because of our friendship. Him and I were closer than they were.
Yeah.
Anyway, he moved away, he came back, and then he was hanging out with us again, and he was building his own guitar in our house, and it took forever. He had, like, this little kit, he painted it himself, and he wired it all up. Anyway, he could never get it to work.
Yeah.
He was doing something wrong in the wiring, and it wasn't working. He'd plug it in, and it kind of sounded really shitty. And he just got so frustrated with it that before we left, each band member got a swing against a rock. So he had this guitar, and we just beat the shit out of it on a rock, and then we all signed it. And I didn't think he'd do anything with it, but eventually he got out there, and he framed it, I think.
Huh.
or something, and it's now up on his wall. So I'm gonna try and get him to send me a picture of that as well, because
That's
it's just really cool because it's like from whenever that was, 2001, I think. So like 15 years ago at this point.
Damn.
Yeah, it was just a really cool thing.
That's a long time ago.
It is. Yeah, I'm curious to see it now again, just because there was a time when I would practice my autograph, but I always thought that I would be a famous hockey player, so I would always put the number 11 beside every time I signed my name. So I don't remember if I did, but I'm curious to see if I did that.
So I used to do, because I too would practice my signature, and mine was really easy. I would do like a 7, and then I'd put a line down for the T, a little line in the middle for the I, and then where the 7 kind of does at the point, I'd put another line down. So it was just a 7 and 3 lines. Because I thought, I got to get this as fast as I can get it. And
True.
It worked, and I don't have a pen readily available. I would show you, because, I mean, it literally takes like 3 seconds. I got Post-it notes, but no pen.
Of course. That's just the way it works when you want to show something.
Oh, wait, what's this?
And we seem to have gotten way far away from what we were talking about.
I found a pen. So, it was...
So if you ever meet us and you ask Tip for his autograph, this damn well better be how he signs it.
Simple, right?
That's pretty good. Yeah, that's pretty good.
And that because I was gonna be a punk rock star, and then I realized punk rock stars don't sign autographs.
Well, I'm sure they would if they asked.
Yeah, but but yeah, it was this album brings back a lot of good memories. Just good time with friends.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely one of those. Like we said with the Black Album with Metallica, it's. If you want to get into punk rock, especially older punk rock, I guess now, because stuff's pretty old, it's a great album to start with.
It's this album's 22 years old.
Yeah, and there's not a bad song on it.
No, and like I said, it's daily rotation. I've been listening to it for at least 15 of those 22 years.
Yeah, it's not very often that more than a week or so goes by where I don't listen to Rancid at some point.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's just to jog my memory of, hey, remember hanging out at Sean's place or remember doing this or whatever. But it always inevitably brings up something. I'm like, oh yeah, good times.
Yep.
Good times.
And I remember people going to my parents' house. And my parents, my dad especially, way religious.
Okay.
Picture your most conservative, religious Americana parents, and those are my parents.
Okay.
5 kids, all of us different. And you know, my sisters, they were like, oh, we gotta do well in school, blah blah blah. And then I'd show up with my friends, and a buddy of mine, Patrick, not Pat from Why Did Ask For, but a different Patrick. Actually, there were 2 of them. There was Roland and there was Morris, then there was Chase. We would show up and, you know, Liberty Spikes, Mohawks.
Right.
Punk clothes.
Yeah, I never got into the dressing as such, but...
And like, we'd show up and... my parents would just be like, oh, hey, boys, how are you? And, like, they would be the exact opposite around my parents as they were in the world, as we called it. Like, they were like, oh, hello, Mr. and Mrs. Barron. How are you today? I'm very... And it was just the way it is, but it just goes to show you can't judge a book by its cover. Because, I mean... some of these guys, like Chase, he's a family man now. He teaches kids, and you would have never thought it looking at him growing up. lost touch with the other two. So.
I mean, it's funny too because even like Sean and I or anybody else that we hung out with, we never dressed the part to a degree. I guess we kind of dressed more grungy, more Nirvana-esque. Yeah. But even that, like, it didn't really make a difference because there was days where we just wouldn't listen to punk and we would go upstairs and we would play chess and listen to Yo-Yo Ma.
Yeah.
And it's just like a complete departure where, you know, we're usually drawing or writing poetry while listening to punk and just hanging out and chatting online or whatever to chess and Yo-Yo Ma. It's like,
yeah, and you know, it's just some of the smartest people I knew in high school were the punk kids, and they were the ones that were the most well read and had interest outside of everything.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that has to do with what punk rock typically was about, at least at that time.
Yeah.
And no, I don't mean like the punk rock scene. Like typically, what songs were written were highly political.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And to write something highly political like that, you have to be well informed on the issues. Mm-hmm. You know, so it's along the same lines as like Rage Against the Machine. They were very political.
Yeah.
They also knew a lot about politics and a lot about the little random things that would happen in the world that nobody was paying attention to. And they would write a song about it, and it would take way off, and then people go, hey, what's this song about? And it's like, what? You've never heard about this case or about, you know, this happened to Buddy?
You don't know about the Zapatas in southern Mexico?
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you mean you don't know about that?
You know, at that time, they were writing political stuff, and to write political stuff, you got to be well read, and you got to know your shit.
It's like this girl that I've known her since I was 12 years old. Absolutely in love with her for 20 years now. We haven't spoken in 2 months, but that's because I'm also very butthurt.
Childish?
Childish is a good word for me. But like, I just remember she'd always have all these like really interesting things to say about what her beliefs were and what she had read. Her and I didn't agree on a goddamn thing. Not a goddamn thing. I would say the sky is blue, and she's, no, it's an overtone of this, and it's like, no, fuck you, it's blue.
It's more turquoise with a blue overtone.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
And, but we were like peas in a pod. I mean, always together. And I remember last year, around this time of year, I was thinking to myself going home, I was like, man, it'd be really cool if I saw her, but I think she lives in Wyoming now. And
that's unfortunate.
Yeah, but it turns out, you know, I go to a Christmas party with some other friends from that time, and she shows up, and we're going through the high school yearbook, and like even then, it got that same like, hey, remember Ruby Soho? And
I see.
But it's still like we were flipping through, and they opened it, and somehow I avoided everything to do with participating in school. Like, I'd go to school and I'd study, and I got straight A's all through high school. But I didn't have that many friends.
Neither did I. I was still shitty at school.
But like I just avoided. I almost didn't go to my graduation, and it was just they opened it, and somehow someone got a picture of me wearing a KMFDM shirt, which is more of an industrial band.
Okay.
And it was 2 sizes too small. And it had a guy smoking an opium pipe, and I would wear that to school, and I'd get so much shit. Your shirt says opium, and that guy's smoking an opium pipe. No, it's a saxophone. He's playing jazz. But I had these Liberty spikes, and like they open it up, and the quotes "No nation, no borders." It's like, really, Tip? This is what you had to say about high school? It's like, I still believe no nations, no borders.
You're gonna have to now.
Yeah, and
thanks.
And it is just one of those things where, you know, we were just sitting there, and you know what we played that night when we were at that Christmas party last year? Rancid.
Of course. As you. Well, this one's run a bit long.
Yeah.
We are definitely way past time, but it's been a slice talking about the past and reminiscing about this particular album. Don't forget to go check out our store at society6.com/whydidasfor. There's a new logo up for Intune, as you can see by the thumbnail. You can get that design on a t-shirt. In the meantime, thanks for joining us. This has been Intune. We'll see you next time.
Yes, sir.